I didn't start as a suspicious husband. I started as a tired father. By the time the clock hit 12:37 a.m., the house had drained itself of noise. The heater had cycled off, the pool pump quieted, the fridge hummed like a mechanical lullaby. I stood in the hallway with a toothbrush hanging from my mouth, staring at the closed door to my son's room, wondering if I was losing my mind or finally paying attention. 3 nights in a row, I'd woken up to the weight of absence. Not my wife's body beside me, her warmth gone, her side of the bed smooth, the duvet turned back like a mouth mid-sentence. That absence was easy to measure. But there was another one, a hollowness in the house itself, a sense that something had been removed and put back slightly wrong, like a picture hung a fraction of an inch off level. Maybe she's getting water, I told myself the first night. Second night, I got as far as the hallway before the bathroom light clicked off behind me. No, she wasn't there. On the third night, I saw a sliver of gold leak from under our son Noah's door. It vanished as quickly as I noticed it, a firefly blink swallowed by dark. Noah is 8. He sleeps with a fleet of stuffed dinosaurs that he has carefully ranked by bravery. Spike, Triceratops, is the general, followed by Blue, Velociraptor, and Cuddle Rex, who is braver than he is cuddly. He talks in his sleep when he's had too much sugar or too many stories. He's soft-bellied and ink-smeared and wonderful. He should sleep through the night without anyone sneaking into his room. By dawn of the 4th morning, I had talked myself into a tight circle and then into the hardware store. That's where the camera came from, another tiny bead in the ocean of smart things willing to watch your life if you let them. It was no larger than my knuckle, with a lens so black it made the plastic around it seem gray. It had a feature the salesman described like he was selling a campfire ghost story. Motion-triggered alerts. Nothing would record unless something moved. The device would be quiet until it didn't want to be, and then it would whisper to my phone. I wasn't proud installing it. I told myself it was for Noah, that if a stranger ever tried to break in through his window, I'd have a video full of proof and a head start on fear. I told myself parents did worse things for smaller reasons every day. Still, when I climbed a chair in Noah's room to tuck the lens into the shadowed corner of a shelf, between a row of pencil boxes and the framed watercolor he'd made in first grade, a purple storm over a green sea, I felt something twist inside me. A wire pulled too tight. "Dad, what are you doing?" Noah asked from the doorway, hair sticking up, pajamas tugged crooked. "Fixing the smoke detector," I said, "because lies can be as small as the thing you're hiding. Go brush your teeth, we're late." That night, I watched my wife make tea. Sarah poured the water slowly, the way she did everything, carefully, as if precision was affection. She'd always been that way. When we met, she was a nurse on the night shift who packed her own meals. In labeled containers, TB syringes glinting in her pocket like pens. She came home at dawn and ate toast with jam and fell asleep with the TV on, and I fell in love with her in the pauses between alarms. Now she worked days, extra hours when a baby was rough on the ward. She brought home stories she kept sealed in her eyes and on the soft place under her jaw where she clenched. "I'm going to bed early," she said at 10:14. "You coming?" "In a minute." I smiled and tried to be the sort of smile that could be believed. "Want me to lock up?" She nodded, kissed Noah goodnight, and left me with dishwater hands and a mind that wouldn't sit still. The house dimmed. Noah's door closed. Our bedroom door half closed. I lay down and stared at the ceiling until the ceiling stared back. At 12:31 a.m., the bed lightened. I felt the way I do on airplanes when the pilot takes his hands off the yoke, a vibration changing pitch. I kept my eyes closed until the soft pad of Sarah's footsteps faded down the hallway and the house seemed to exhale again. Then I rolled to my side and reached for my phone. One red dot pulsed in the top corner of the camera app. Motion detected. I told myself not to press it. I pressed. The feed opened in a greenish wash, the lens working in night mode, solid shapes etched like negatives. Noah was a small breathing hill under his dinosaur duvet. The bump of his knee twitched now and then, a tiny moon lifting and falling. The door opened, a darker dark within the dark. and Sarah slipped in with a grace that belonged to her bones. She didn't turn on a light. She didn't hesitate. She moved straight to the bed. She sat on the edge, and for a moment she only watched him. She smoothed his hair with a hand that was both gentle and tense, like a nurse checking a pulse in a crowded ER. Noah didn't stir. She leaned down and said something I couldn't catch. The camera had no sound. The salesman had warned me that would cost more, and I told him I didn't need to hear anything. Now silence was its own kind of noise. She reached into her robe pocket and took out something small. A folded square of cloth? No, a gauze pad. She swiped at Noah's arm, the crook of his elbow, a crescent shape. My stomach dipped. I sat up in bed without knowing why I'd moved. She examined the gauze in the ghostly light and tucked it back into her pocket. Then she pulled back Noah's blanket about 6 inches and pressed her ear to his chest. She stayed there, counting, her lips moving, the exact way a nurse counts respirations when the numbers matter. After a minute, she replaced the blanket and did something even stranger. She reached under his pillow. My throat was suddenly dry. I swallowed and tried to become a person who was not holding a phone to his face in the haunted hours, watching his wife pry secrets from their sleeping son. Sarah's fingers emerged with a small hardcover notebook. Noah's dream journal. His teacher had encouraged every kid to write down the wildest part of their night. He took it seriously. Crayon landscapes of sky sharks and city buses that flew, and me as a cowboy who could only speak in rhymes. We giggled over it on Saturday mornings. It was his. She opened it. She flipped pages quickly, scanning, then froze on one and stayed there. In the night vision pale, she looked like a statue learning a terrible truth. She pressed 2 fingers to her mouth, then traced a line down the page, tilted the book toward herself as if that would change what was written, and finally, gently, almost reverently, she tore the page out. My vision tightened into a tunnel. Every picture frame on our bedroom wall clicked into place, too straight, as if the house itself had been corrected while I wasn't looking. Sarah slipped the torn page into her robe and closed the journal. She put it back under the pillow and stood, then moved to Noah's desk. She knelt. For a moment she was out of frame. When she reappeared, she had a small metal container in her hand, blue, with a white cross on the lid, the first aid tin we keep in the kitchen junk drawer. I checked the timestamp on the footage, 12:37 a.m., my toothbrush hour. Had she moved it earlier? Had I not noticed? She opened the tin, took out a strip of something, broke it in half, and tucked both halves under Noah's pillow. She paused. She pressed a kiss into the air above his cheek like a blessing and left. When she slid back into bed beside me, her body was cold. The kind of cold you get in hospital corridors at 4 a.m., where the coffee taste never fades and the windows show only your tired face. "You're awake," she whispered, though she couldn't see my open eyes. "Couldn't sleep," I said. Her hand found mine under the duvet, squeezed once, a signal I didn't know how to read anymore. I counted her breaths until she fell asleep. I didn't. In the morning, I watched Noah eat cereal and wondered if secrets travel like smoke, if they seep into everything you love, and you only notice the smell when someone opens a door. He slurped milk and told me Blue would definitely win the class Bring Your Dinosaur Day because everyone else had normal bears or dogs, which are not even prehistoric, Dad. Sarah hummed around the kitchen on her 3rd cup of coffee. The first aid tin was back in the junk drawer, perched on top of batteries and a balled-up tape measure as if it had never moved. The dream journal peeked out from Noah's backpack with a yellow pencil slid down its spine like a sword. I almost asked. I almost ruined everything over oatmeal. Instead, I installed a second camera. This one had audio. It cost more. The salesman didn't say anything smug this time. He just rang it up, and when I signed the receipt, I thought of all the names that exist for betrayal, and none of them felt like what I was doing. Maybe I was just cataloging. Maybe I was the historian of my own house. That night, I lay still and waited. Sarah took longer to leave this time. She rolled toward me, stroked my hair, breathed through her nose in a way that meant she'd been crying. When I turned to face her, she smiled without teeth and said, "I love you." like a thing that could hold a room together. "I love you too," I said, and I meant it desperately, as if meaning it could be a bridge over something I didn't understand. At 12:42 a.m., the app buzzed. I slipped out of bed and into the bathroom, shut the door softly, and sat on the closed toilet lid with my phone and my fear like two stones in my palms. The green-lit room popped into existence. Noah murmured something, a tumble of words. The audio clicked on, static, then the threat of his tiny voice. "Don't want the red light," he said, not quite awake. "It burns." Sarah's whisper was soft. "It won't burn, baby. Not tonight." The phrase red light lodged in me. The camera captured only the blue-black of night. The red was elsewhere. Sarah checked his forehead with the back of her hand. "Warm," she breathed. "Not hot," Noah sighed, settled, then flinched as if the air had pinched him. "Mom, I'm here. Did you talk to the man?" "What man?" she asked, and I could hear her smile, tired and fond. "The man in the doorway," he said. "He stands funny." A muscle in my neck pulled so hard it made my eye twitch. I glanced at the bathroom door, suddenly sure that if I opened it there would be someone there, the house full of a stranger's outline. I looked back at the video. The doorway in the feed was empty, a thin rectangle of less dark. Sarah smoothed Noah's hair again. "There's no man," she said. "It's just the coat rack." "He hums," Noah insisted, sleep slurring the word until it bled. "He has a red light." Sarah's hand stilled. She inhaled once. "Go to sleep," she said, and something like worry braided into the words. She did the gauze again, the crook of his elbow, quick, practiced. She lifted the pillow, paused when the crinkle of paper sounded on the audio, and then slid her hand underneath. "Still here," she murmured, and the microphone caught a double click, plastic rubbing plastic. She pulled out the first aid tin and the halves of whatever she'd hidden. In the night vision, I couldn't read the label. It could have been gum. It could have been poison. It could have been placebo hope broken into pieces. "Just in case," she whispered. "No red light," Noah said. Half a plea, half a promise. "No red light," Sarah agreed. She reached for the dream journal again. I tensed, leaning into the screen like I could zoom with my bones. She flipped to the newest page. "Tell me the dream," she said. Noah's voice was tiny. "You and Dad are far away. There's a door. It hums like the fridge when it's angry. The man stands inside the humming. His head is a box. He peeks at me. He tells me to open my arm for the red light. I say no, but then the light comes out of the wall." Sarah's breath caught. The word formed in my mind like frost, IV. Red light, maybe an alarm light from a pump. Humming, a door that hums. An ICU door. Noah had visited Sarah at work once, briefly, after hours. He'd pointed at monitors and asked if the wires could tickle. But that had been months ago. The images could have drifted into his dreams and nested there. Why would she tear out pages about that? Why would she take gauze samples from him in the night? "Does the man hurt you?" Sarah asked, voice controlled. "No," Noah mumbled. "He hurts the humming. Then the humming hurts me." Sarah closed the journal, slid it back, and leaned down to kiss his temple. "Dreams can't hurt you," she said. "And humming is just a sound. Sleep." He sighed into his pillow, the way a tide gives up on the shore. I pressed pause, then play, then pause again, frantic, as if the app would give up an answer if I tapped it hard enough. But the screen didn't change. The audio thinned into the hush of a sleeping house. Sarah stayed a minute longer, eyes trained on Noah's face, counting his breaths again, lips moving in that silent math. Then she stood, gathered the torn page from her pocket, the new one, tonight's one, and left. I watched the feed for a while after that. Nothing else moved except the slow star of the motion alert, which went dark, then flared, then went dark again, as if the camera was convincing itself something had changed. At 3:11 a.m., I went into Noah's room. The night was a cold animal rubbing against my calves. I stood by his bed and watched him breathe, a parent's ritual as old as fear. I reached under his pillow, feeling like I was opening a safe that contained my own heart. My fingers brushed plastic. I brought the items into the shadows of the hall and held them in the weak spill from the bathroom nightlight. 2 halves of a test strip. Not gum, not medicine. The kind you dip into a liquid to see if it changes color. The label was impossible to read in the dim, but I recognized the checkerboard at the edge. The little boxes like empty windows waiting for something to announce itself. I'd seen them in a drawer once in Sarah's study. Packets, unused, stacked like tickets you hope you never need to punch. Beside them, faint smears, pale lines. And on my fingers, the clean sting of alcohol from the gauze. I put everything back exactly as it had been. The way a burglar is careful in a story when he loves the house he's entered. The next day I tried to be normal. At work I opened spreadsheets and found my eyes sliding off numbers. At lunch I stared at mayonnaise like it could explain itself. I called Sarah at noon, and when she didn't pick up, I had to sit on my hands so I wouldn't call again. She texted a picture of a baby's foot in a nurse's palm. Look at this perfect bean. Busy day, love you. I looked at the foot, and then my phone drifted to the camera app, like water finds a slope. That night I told myself I would confront her. I would say, I saw. I would say, tell me what's happening. But when she threaded her fingers through mine and told me she was exhausted, when she said, do you ever feel like the world is whispering just a little too loudly? I couldn't add my own volume to the noise. I told myself I was protecting her from my worst self. Maybe I was protecting myself from the truth. At 12:39 a.m., she went to Noah again. This time the audio caught something new, a soft beeping, almost too gentle to notice, like a heart monitor turned down. It took me a moment to realize it was the camera itself, a warning that my storage would fill if I didn't clear old clips. I scrubbed back. I scrubbed forward. I watched her sit and smooth and count. I watched her take a small flashlight from her robe pocket, the kind doctors use to check pupils, and sweep it once over Noah's face. He twitched and she cooed. Shh. Then she did something that made my breath knot. She tucked another piece of paper under his pillow. Not into the journal, under the pillow, where a child hides teeth and finds coins. She hesitated with her hand there a long time, as if leaving the note cost her something. Then she stood and slipped out of the room. The door closed. The house was the ocean again, and I was a diver without a line, suspended. It took me 20 minutes to work up the nerve. 20 minutes to breathe like a person and not a siren. I padded down the hall, opened Noah's door with the care of a thief, and went to his bed. He didn't stir when I lifted the edge of the pillow and felt the paper whisper against my fingertips. I brought it into the hall light. There were only 3 words. Do not tell. I didn't sleep after that. I lay in the dark and made lists of explanations. Allergies, sleepwalking, a study Sarah was part of. A patient's mother confiding something that made her check our own child. A paranoia that didn't belong to me but had moved in and started rearranging the furniture. I cycled through them like TV channels, never settling long enough to finish the show. At 5:26 a.m., when the night finally began to unspool and the sky went the color of scraped metal, Sarah stirred beside me. She rolled onto her back and stared at the ceiling like she could see through it. Did you hear the wind? She asked. No, I said. It sounded like singing, she said. Or maybe I dreamed that. I turned my head and studied her profile, the way her cheek met her ear. The tiny scar on her jaw from when she fell off a scooter in 8th grade. Facts I loved more than names of stars. Sarah, I said, and stopped, because the name was more complicated than it had been yesterday. What are you doing at night? I asked. I heard my own voice like it belonged to someone on the phone, distant and delayed. She took a long time to answer. Sometimes, she said, it's easier to worry with my eyes on him. Why are you worried? She turned to me, eyes bright in the thin morning light. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again with a half-smile that was mostly pain. Because I know the world, she said. Because I know what humming doors mean. Because I'm a mother. Is he sick? I asked. The word came out colder than I meant it to. Is Noah sick and you're testing him? For what? What are those strips? I swallowed. Why are you taking pages from his journal? She flinched. Small, but I saw it. I'm not ready to say. You left a note under his pillow, I said. And the sentence felt like it might split in my mouth. Her face changed in a way I couldn't read at first. Then I realized it was fear. You saw that? There it was. The confirmation my paranoia needed, a hand on its shoulder. But it didn't make me feel vindicated. It made me feel like I'd found a hidden room in a house I built and painted and lived in, and somehow never knew. I saw, I said. Sarah breathed out. Okay, she whispered. Then I have to show you something. She didn't move. We lay there, 2 stones at the bottom of a shallow river, and the light slowly pooled around us. Down the hall, Noah's door creaked and his small feet thumped onto the floor. The day had begun whether we agreed to it or not. After breakfast, Sarah asked Noah if he wanted to go to the park. And he said yes, with the kind of yes that belongs to 8-year-olds who believe the world makes sense as long as the swings are empty. She tied his shoes and tucked his dream journal into his backpack and told me, "Come to the garage in 5 minutes." When I stepped into the garage, she was standing by the workbench with her hands braced on the wood, breathing like she'd run upstairs. The air smelled like oil and citrus cleaners and dust. Sunlight knifed through the high windows and made a ladder of light across the floor. Sarah didn't look up. "Whatever you think this is," she said, "it isn't that. What is it then?" She closed her eyes. When she opened them, she held my gaze the way you hold a door against wind. "I need you to trust me," she said, "for another day. Tonight I'll show you everything." "Tonight," I repeated. I heard the thinness in my voice and hated it. She touched the workbench like she might steady it, then reached under and pulled out a shoebox I didn't recognize. It had been taped shut along the edges with the kind of precision that leaves no accidental hair caught under the adhesive. She set it between us. "Until then," she said, "I want you to keep this safe." "What is it?" Her mouth flickered. Fear, determination, love, all braided together. "Evidence," she said. "Evidence of what?" She didn't answer. She wiped her palms on her jeans, breathed in like a diver, and finally looked at me with something like apology. "I know about the camera," she said softly. "I saw the red light. I looked at the shelf where I'd hidden it in Noah's room. I looked at the box. I looked at my wife, who was the person I had chosen to be a person with." "Sarah," I said, and my voice failed because there was too much weight on it. "Just tonight," she said again. "Please." I took the shoebox. It was heavier than I expected. Inside, something shifted. A small slide, a soft clack. Photos? Vials? The idea made my stomach turn. I nodded. She nodded back, relieved in the way people are when the plane lifts off the runway and you can't change your mind anymore. Noah shouted from the front yard. A car door slammed. The day tugged at us, insistent. Sarah squeezed my wrist. "We'll be home by 6, she said. "Bake the lasagna? He likes it extra cheesy." I stood in the doorway and watched them go, a mother and a son and the space between them, full of notes I didn't know how to read. When they turned the corner, the garage seemed suddenly too quiet. I set the shoebox on the workbench and placed my hands on either side of it as if I were about to open a chest in a fairy tale that would change me into a different animal. I didn't open it, not yet. Instead, like a coward, like a historian, like a father who wanted proof over pain, I went back inside, closed the bedroom curtains, and opened the camera app. The most recent clip wasn't from last night. It was from the afternoon before. The timestamp read 4:12 p.m. The afternoon glare had made the room gold. The audio was crisp with daylight sounds, neighbors, birds, a leaf blower half a block over. Noah was at his desk drawing a dinosaur with a baseball cap. The door opened. Sarah stepped in, eyes red. She sat on the edge of his bed, then curled into herself, shoulders shaking. "Mom?" Noah asked, small. He put his marker down and came over. "Are you crying because of the humming?" Sarah laughed a little through her nose, that quick breaking laugh people make to keep from falling apart. "I'm crying because I'm proud," she said. "Of me? Of you," she said, "and of your dad." Noah considered this. "We didn't even do anything." "You did," she said. "You told the truth. That's the bravest thing." I paused the clip. I stared at Sarah's frozen face, the exact moment where pride and fear were the same shape, and for the first time since the red light appeared in my life, I wondered if the wrong person was being watched. Someone coughed behind me. I turned. There was a man in the doorway. He didn't belong to our house. His hair was the gray of parking lot snow. His suit was the kind that never wrinkled, not because it was expensive, but because the person inside it never stopped being alert. He held a badge the way people in movies hold badges, casual as a coin. When he spoke, His voice had the burr of someone who'd grown up 1,000 miles away and never forgiven the city for winning. "Mr. Collins," he said politely. "Do you have a minute?" I looked past him, as if Sarah might appear, as if my son might run in trailing a paper dinosaur and everything would become simple again. But the hallway was empty of anyone who loved me. Only this stranger and his quiet eyes stood there, and the red light in my pocket pulsed. "What is this about?" I managed. He nodded once, like a man confirming a diagnosis to himself before saying it aloud. "I'm with the hospital's security and compliance team," he said, tapping the badge. "We need to talk about your wife." Sarah's hands were shaking when she locked the garage door. She thought she'd been quiet, that her movements had the precision of someone rehearsed in secrecy, but the sound of that metal latch echoed through my bones long after she went to bed. I sat in the dark kitchen with my phone face down on the table, watching its black screen reflect the low ceiling light, and tried not to think about the recording that shouldn't exist. The red-lit figure in the toolbox reflection haunted me. It wasn't just the light. It was the way he leaned, half-turned, as though he'd been looking straight at her, and somehow, through the camera, straight at me. I wanted to wake Sarah, shake her awake and demand answers, but the exhaustion in her face earlier, the kind of exhaustion that lives under skin, not in muscles, made me stop. I waited until her breathing steadied. Then I took my phone and went to the garage myself. The night smelled of rain and old dust. The fluorescent tube overhead flickered like a dying insect. The shoebox sat on the bench exactly where she'd left it, sealed again with neat layers of tape. I traced my fingers along the edges. It was still faintly warm, as if whatever was inside had a pulse. A note had been tucked beneath it. "Do not open until morning. Please, trust me." The handwriting was rushed, the loop on the "Y" in "please" broken, as if the pen had trembled. I should have left it alone. I should have obeyed that single word she'd repeated all week. Trust. But trust was a rope already fraying in my hands. I peeled the tape back, one whispering strip at a time. Inside were the vials I'd seen on the video, but now only one remained. The others were gone, their foam slots empty. The remaining vial held a deep crimson liquid so dense it caught the light and held it like glass. Attached to it was a small label, NC7, Sequence B. Under that, a date, yesterday. I picked it up. It was cool, heavier than I expected. Something shifted behind me. I spun around. The garage was empty. The door to the backyard stood ajar, moving slightly with the wind. I thought I saw movement beyond it, a ripple of shadow near the fence, but when I stepped closer, it was gone. Only the sound of rain beginning against the roof. I went back inside and hid the vial in my desk drawer. When Sarah woke, she acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee, kissed Noah's hair, and talked about the weather. Her calm was worse than any confession. I kept waiting for her to mention the garage, the box, anything, but she didn't. At breakfast, Noah chattered about school and the ducks, and how he dreamed of flying in a red-light rocket. My spoon froze halfway to my mouth. "Red-light rocket?" I asked. He nodded enthusiastically. "It goes up and hums real loud. Mom says the man rides it to the clouds." Sarah's hand tightened on her mug. "Sweetheart, that's just a dream." "No," he said. He waved at me. She smiled too wide and changed the subject. When she left to drop him at school, I opened my drawer again. The vial was still there, but the condensation on the glass had vanished, like someone had wiped it clean. I turned it in my hand, holding it to the window. The liquid was darker now, almost black. My phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. "Mr. Collins, do not destroy the sample. Meet me tonight. 9 p.m. 317 Willow." No signature. I stared at it for a long time, then typed back a single word. "Who?" The response came instantly. "E. Rains." My breath caught. The name from the letter. Sarah's mentor, the one who'd pushed this quiet, illegal research into our home. At noon, I called the hospital. The operator transferred me twice before a man from administration answered, brisk and tired. When I asked for Dr. Rains, there was silence. "Sir," he said finally, Dr. Evelyn Rains passed away 2 months ago. I gripped the phone. That's impossible. She texted me. Then someone's using her name, he said. I suggest you go to the police. I hung up and sat there, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the same pitch Noah had described, the one he said came from the humming door. My hands were damp. The house felt suddenly smaller, the walls too close. When Sarah returned, I couldn't stop watching her. She noticed. What? She asked, setting her purse down. I called the hospital. Her face didn't change, not at first. Then a muscle near her temple twitched. Why would you do that? I had to know. They said Dr. Rains is dead. The silence between us lengthened until it hurt. Finally, she said quietly, She's not. Sarah, she's not dead, she repeated. They covered it up. The lab accident, they called it an infection outbreak to shut down the trial. But she survived. She's the one who asked me to continue. The texts, the instructions, they're from her private line. Then why hide it from the hospital? Why from me? Because you wouldn't understand what she's trying to fix. She turned away, bracing herself against the counter. Evelyn found a sequence, an immune anomaly that can heal damaged cells. It regenerates tissue faster than anything they've seen. But in children, it behaves differently. It talks to the nervous system. That's why she needed Noah's data. His markers matched the dormant strain. My head spun. Talks to the nervous system? Sarah, you're describing something that doesn't exist. Her voice cracked. It exists. I've seen it. I wanted to laugh, to break the tension, to pull her back into the world I understood. But there was a seriousness in her eyes that made the laugh die. She stepped closer and whispered, You saw it too. The red light. For a second I forgot how to breathe. She continued, It reacts to electromagnetic fields. When it's active, it glows. That's what you saw in the camera feed. It's not just light, it's the sequence moving. I shook my head. Sarah, listen to yourself. But she only whispered, It's inside him. I dropped the coffee mug. It shattered across the floor. Inside who? Noah, she said, and her eyes filled with tears. He was born with it. I backed away until my shoulder hit the wall. You can't know that. I can't. The day he was born, they tested my blood and his. They found the markers. I didn't tell you because you would have panicked. I thought it was dormant, harmless. Then Evelyn called 2 months ago and said one of the old samples reactivated. It responds to stress, Daniel, to fear. That's why I've been monitoring him at night, to keep it from waking fully. I pressed my hands to my face. The sound that came out of me wasn't a word. You're saying our son is infected? Not infected, she said. Chosen. Before I could answer, Noah's voice came from the hallway. Mom, the man says he's cold. Sarah froze. I turned toward him. He stood in his pajamas, hair messy, eyes half open. Behind him, down the hall, the air shimmered faintly red. She rushed forward. Noah, don't look at him. He blinked, confused. But he's nice. He says the light hurts because you keep testing it. She grabbed his shoulders. Go to your room. Now. He went, slow, still glancing back toward the red shimmer. When his door closed, the glow dimmed but didn't vanish. Sarah whispered, It's starting again. What's starting? The activation. She turned to me. Evelyn warned this might happen if we disrupted the monitoring cycle. Did you move the sample? I hesitated. Daniel, where is it? In my drawer. She ran down the hall, tore it open, and pulled out the vial. The liquid inside was glowing faintly now, pulsing like a heartbeat. You shouldn't have touched it, she said, voice breaking. It's linked to him. The glow brightened, throwing red light across the walls. The hum grew louder, low, vibrating through the floorboards. Then the vial cracked. A thin line of red spread like a vein up the glass. Sarah gasped and rushed toward the sink, wrapping it in a towel. Get Noah! She shouted. I ran to his room. He was sitting up in bed, eyes wide, skin flushed as if from fever. The hum was louder here, trembling through the air. He looked at me and said softly, He's back, Dad. Behind him the shadows were moving, slowly forming a shape, tall and indistinct, like heat rising off pavement. The red glow outlined it, a halo of flickering light. My body locked. I wanted to grab Noah, but something in that light made the air thick, heavy. Sarah burst in, holding the vial wrapped in cloth. Stay back, she said. The red light flared and the shape recoiled slightly as though it feared her. She threw the vial into the corner. It shattered, spilling the glowing liquid across the floor. The light dimmed instantly and the hum stopped. For a long moment there was only silence. Noah blinked. Where did he go? Sarah sank to the floor, trembling. He's gone for now. I looked at her, my voice barely working. What was that? She pressed her hand to her face. Proof, she whispered, that it's real. We didn't sleep. At dawn, she sat by the window, staring at the sky, and I watched Noah breathe, afraid the red glow would return with the sunrise. At 9 p.m., when she thought I was resting, I took my keys and left. I drove to 317 Willow, the address from the message. The building was old, a single-story clinic with boarded windows. The parking lot was empty except for a white van with hospital markings. Inside, the air smelled of bleach and metal. Dr. Rains, I called. Footsteps echoed. From the corridor emerged a woman in a lab coat, face shadowed, hair tied back. Her badge hung crookedly. E. Rains, M.D. You shouldn't be here, she said. You're supposed to be dead. Everyone says that when they see me. She stepped into the light. Her eyes were tired but sharp. You brought the sample? It broke. She paused, then sighed. Then it's begun. What is it? I demanded. The organism isn't just biological. It's responsive. It replicates memory through bioluminal transfer. In Noah, it found stability, but when you disrupted the cycle, it detached. Detached? She looked at me with pity. It's seeking a new host. The words barely registered before my phone buzzed again. A video feed opened automatically. Noah's room. Red light pulsed through the frame, crawling up the walls. Sarah stood over him, shouting something I couldn't hear. The image glitched. The feed filled with static, then froze on a single frame. A figure standing in the doorway, face obscured, eyes burning red. Dr. Rains closed her eyes. You have to choose, she said softly. Save your wife, or your son. The screen went black. The drive back home was a blur of empty streets and beating pulse. Streetlights smeared into red streaks across the windshield, each one flashing like a warning. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my fingers went numb. The words kept echoing inside me. Save your wife or your son. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't want to know. When I turned onto our street, every window of our house glowed faintly red. Not a steady light. It pulsed, slow and rhythmic like the beating of a heart. The neighborhood around it was dark, sleeping. Even the wind had died. I parked crookedly, half on the curb, and ran. The front door was ajar. Inside, the air was thick. Not smoky, not misty, but heavy, like it had weight. The red light came from the hallway, spilling outward in soft, trembling waves. I called Sarah's name. Nothing. I called Noah's. And for a moment I thought I heard his voice answer. But it was just the hum again, that low, mechanical vibration that wasn't coming from any machine. The hallway mirror was glowing. The red light wasn't reflection. It was pouring out from within the glass, swirling like liquid fire trapped behind ice. And then I saw him. Noah stood in the doorway of his room. His eyes were half open, face calm in a way that didn't belong to a child. His pajamas hung loose, the color drained from his skin except for the faint red veins glowing beneath the surface, crawling up his neck like cracks in glass. Sarah knelt beside him, tears streaking her face. Noah, stay with me, she whispered, cupping his cheek. He looked down at her, voice quiet but wrong. Two tones at once, his and something lower, something ancient. Mom, he said, he's tired of waiting. Who? I shouted, stepping closer. Sarah turned her head slowly as if moving through water. Her eyes were rimmed in red light, reflecting the same pulse as the walls. Evelyn was right, she whispered. It's not a disease. It's a signal. I grabbed her shoulders. What are you talking about? What signal? She smiled. Not in madness, not in peace, but in terrible recognition. He's not alone, Daniel. He never was. The humming deepened, and suddenly the house was shaking, lights flickering in time with the pulse. From Noah's room came a crack, the sound of wood splintering, glass breaking. I rushed forward, but the air thickened around me like a wall of heat. The closer I got, the slower I moved until it felt like wading through syrup. Then Noah lifted his hand. Just lifted it, a small, calm gesture, and everything stopped. The sound, the vibration, the trembling of the air. For a heartbeat, the world held still. His eyes met mine. They glowed faintly red, but not bright, just enough to paint the whites with color. "Dad," he said, and for a moment it was only his voice again. "He wants to go home. Who wants to go home?" The man in the doorway. Behind him, the air began to ripple. The shape I'd seen before emerged again, taller now, its outline more human but filled with that same impossible light. It leaned against the doorframe like it belonged there. Sarah whispered, "Don't be afraid. Don't." I couldn't finish. My body wanted to run but couldn't decide where. "Sarah, get away from him." She shook her head. "If we fight it, it'll burn him. That's what Evelyn warned me about. It's bonded. It needs transfer. A host with enough neural capacity to hold it. And you think that's you?" She smiled faintly. It was always supposed to be me. Before I could stop her, she stood and stepped toward the figure. The red light intensified. For a split second, she turned her head back toward me. "Whatever happens, keep Noah awake. If he sleeps now, it'll stay in him." The figure reached for her. Its arm was not flesh but light, hundreds of thin lines weaving into form. When it touched her shoulder, she gasped. Not from pain, but relief, like a long-held breath released. Her body jerked once, twice, then the light surged from Noah into her like water through a broken dam. The house shook again. Every bulb shattered at once, plunging everything into darkness except for Sarah's body. Glowing from within, red veins turning gold, gold fading to white. Noah collapsed. I lunged forward, caught him before he hit the floor. His skin was cool now, his breathing shallow but steady. The light around him faded completely. Sarah stumbled backward, still glowing faintly, eyes closed. When she opened them, they were bright, brighter than before, but no longer burning red. She looked at her hands as though seeing them for the first time. "It's quiet," she whispered. I held Noah close. "What did you do?" She smiled weakly. "I took it. Sarah, you can't..." But she was already falling. I caught her before she hit the ground. Her body was burning hot, heat radiating through my arms, but her skin stayed smooth, perfect, almost unreal. She looked at me with a strange peace. "He's safe," she said softly. "Promise me you'll keep him away from the hospital. They'll come for him when they realize it's gone. Sarah, don't..." Her hand brushed my cheek. "It's okay," she murmured. "He's free." Then the glow in her eyes dimmed and her breathing slowed. I shouted her name, shaking her, begging her to stay, but the light inside her faded until she was only human again. Pale, still, silent. The red glow that had filled the house vanished. The hum was gone. The world was still. For a long time, I couldn't move. I sat there holding her with Noah limp against my shoulder, the smell of burnt air lingering around us. When I finally looked toward the mirror, it was black again, empty. No red, no reflection. Just me. An hour later, Noah stirred. "Dad?" "I'm here," I whispered. "Where's Mom?" I looked down at Sarah's face. She looked peaceful, almost asleep. I couldn't make myself say the word. "She's resting." Noah touched her hand. "The man says thank you." I froze. "What man?" He pointed toward the window. The curtains were still closed, but behind them, just for an instant, a faint red shimmer pulsed once, then disappeared into the dawn. 2 days later, the hospital called. They wanted to know why Sarah hadn't reported for her shift. I told them she was sick. The man from security, the same one who'd come before, showed up that afternoon, asking questions I didn't answer. He glanced around the house, eyes lingering on the hallway mirror. "You might want to cover that," he said before leaving. Sometimes these things leave echoes. I didn't ask what he meant. That night I went back to the garage. The shoebox was still there, now half empty. Only one thing remained, a small folded note I hadn't noticed before. My name was written on it in Sarah's handwriting. I opened it with shaking fingers. "Daniel, if you're reading this, it means I did what I had to. Don't hate me." The thing inside Noah wasn't evil, just lost. Evelyn thought it was a mutation. She was wrong. It's consciousness, broken into light. It was never supposed to live here. It only wanted to go home. I'll guide it back. Take care of him. There was a faint red smear at the bottom of the page, like the ink had bled. That night, I buried the vial shards in the backyard. I didn't sleep. The next morning, sunlight came through the kitchen window, clear and clean for the first time in weeks. Noah seemed fine. He ate breakfast, laughed, talked about his dreams. When I asked him what he dreamed of, he said, "A woman made of light." She was holding hands with the man in the doorway. They both waved goodbye. My heart clenched. "And what did you do?" He smiled. I waved back. Weeks passed. The house was quiet. The humming never returned. Sometimes, though, when the lights flickered or the air turned still before a storm, I thought I saw a faint glow behind the hallway mirror. Soft, white now, not red. Peaceful. One night, unable to sleep, I went to the garage. The bench where the shoebox had been was empty except for a single object. The photo of Noah as a baby, Sarah holding him in the hospital. Behind them, half caught in the reflection of a monitor, was the same faint red shimmer. Maybe it had always been there. Maybe it was never leaving. I stood there until dawn, staring at the photo, and whispered into the quiet, "He's safe, Sarah. You did it." For a moment, only a heartbeat. The air in the room warmed, and the faintest pulse of light brushed my cheek like a kiss. Then it was gone. By the time summer crawled toward the edges of August, the house had become a strange museum of normal life. The kitchen smelled of coffee again, the backyard grass had grown wild, and the nights were, for the most part, ordinary, except for the moments that weren't. Noah stopped talking about the man in the doorway, but sometimes I caught him staring at the hallway mirror, the same distant expression Sarah used to have when she was thinking about something she couldn't share. He didn't seem afraid. Just listening. It had been 43 days since Sarah's death, though I never called it that. I told everyone, from her sister to the hospital to Noah, that it was an accident. A sudden heart complication. It wasn't a total lie. Her heart had stopped. But the thing that had stopped it wasn't anything that could be found on a scan. I buried her behind the old oak tree at the edge of the property, the same spot where we used to watch fireworks every July. I told Noah it was so we could still talk to her whenever we wanted. He took that literally. Every morning he left a small plastic dinosaur by her stone, whispering secrets into the grass. It should have been healing. It should have felt like peace. But there were cracks in the quiet. It started with the power surges. The lights flickered every night at exactly 12:37 a.m., the same time I'd first noticed Sarah leaving the bed months ago. The flicker lasted only a second, but when it came, every device in the house froze. Clocks paused, screens went black. My phone camera would open by itself, showing static, then close again. And then came the messages. The first one appeared on a Sunday morning, on Noah's tablet. He was watching cartoons when the screen glitched, pixelated, and replaced the video. With white text on a red background. "Hello!" Daniel Noah laughed, thinking it was a game, but my stomach dropped. He handed me the tablet and I stared at it. The text shimmered, then dissolved, replaced by another line. "Don't be afraid. It's quiet here." Then the screen went black. I reset the Wi-Fi, unplugged everything, convinced myself it was a virus. But that night, while I was doing dishes, the same message appeared on the kitchen TV, even though it wasn't connected to the internet. I turned it off, and the reflection on the screen caught something behind me. A soft pulse of red light near the window. I didn't turn around right away. I couldn't. When I finally did, the glow was gone. I told myself it was grief. The mind plays tricks when it's missing someone, but grief doesn't leave static footprints. That week, the man from hospital security returned. His name, I learned, was Detective Henry Voss, though he never called himself that outright. He wore plain clothes this time, a polite smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm here as a formality," he said, sitting at the same kitchen table where Sarah had once measured test strips. "The hospital's internal review is closed, but they never recovered Dr. Raines's research files. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?" I lied again. "No." He tapped his pen against his notebook, studying me. "You know, Mr. Collins, I read your wife's personnel file. Exceptional nurse. Brilliant. But people like her, they get obsessed with saving lives. Sometimes they forget that obsession can become dangerous. She saved my son, I said. Or she exposed him to something we can't identify. He leaned forward. We found traces of an unknown protein compound in one of her sealed lab samples. The lab classified it as bioluminal, responsive to electromagnetic fields. I froze. He continued, lowering his voice. Her body showed traces of it too. I couldn't speak. Voss straightened, closing his notebook. If you find anything, equipment, data drives, even notes, call me. If the compound was self-replicating, you and your son could still be at risk. After he left, I sat for a long time staring at the empty chair where he'd been. Then I went to the garage. The bench was bare except for a faint outline of dust where the shoebox had sat. But when I pulled open the drawer beneath it, I found something I hadn't seen before. A flash drive taped to the underside, wrapped in surgical gauze. Sarah's handwriting on the tape said only, R3, sequence log. My first thought was to destroy it, burn it. But curiosity is a kind of infection too. That night, after Noah was asleep, I plugged it into my laptop. The folder contained 15 video files, each labeled by date, spanning from 6 months before her death up to 2 days prior. I opened the first one. Sarah sat in a hospital office, hair tied back, wearing her ID badge. R3 log day 1, she said into the camera. Subject NC exhibits the markers predicted. Exposure to sequence B produced a localized reaction, light emission under stress stimuli. Reaction ceased after 60 seconds. The next few entries were similar, clinical, detached. But around day 9, her tone changed. She looked exhausted, eyes red. Sequence B doesn't behave like protein. It communicates. Evelyn says it's cellular resonance, but that doesn't explain the patterns. The hum is language. I think it's trying to find something, or someone. I clicked ahead. Day 14. The video showed Noah asleep in bed, the same angle as my old camera feed. Sarah whispered behind the lens. Response time reduced to 4 seconds. He dreams before the activation begins. Every time he mentions the same thing, the man in the doorway. I've started seeing him too in reflections. Maybe psychosomatic, maybe not. The last file was dated the night she died. The camera shook. She was crying. It's happening faster. The organism's shifting hosts. If it attaches to me, that means it's ready to leave. I'll let it. I just hope Daniel forgives me. The screen went black. I closed the laptop. My heart was pounding so hard it made the keys tremble beneath my fingers. From the hallway, Noah called softly, "Dad?" I jumped. "Yeah, buddy." He stood there, rubbing his eyes. "Mom says you shouldn't be scared." My blood ran cold. "What did you say?" "She was in my dream," he murmured. "She said the light's almost done talking." I pulled him close, feeling his small heartbeat against my chest. "It's just a dream, okay? Go back to sleep." But when he looked up at me, his pupils flickered, just once, with a faint pulse of red. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Noah woke early, chipper, as if nothing had happened. He ate pancakes, laughed at cartoons. The glow in his eyes was gone, but as I cleaned the plates, I noticed something new on his wrist. A small circular mark, faintly pink, the size of a coin. It wasn't a bruise. It was too perfect, too symmetrical. When I touched it, he winced. "It tickles." I smiled for him, but dread coiled in my stomach. I decided to call Voss. Before I could, the doorbell rang. It was him. "I was nearby," he said, holding up a tablet. "We picked up unusual EM interference from this address last night." "You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" I tried to keep my voice even. "We had a storm." He gave me a look that said he didn't believe me. "Mind if I come in?" Noah ran to the door. "Hi." Voss crouched slightly, smiling at him. "Hey, kiddo. You feeling okay?" Noah nodded. "Mom says hi." The smile froze on Voss's face. "Your mom?" "She visits sometimes, in my dreams." Voss stood slowly, eyes narrowing. "Dreams, huh? That's nice." He turned to me. "Keep an eye on him. Nightmares can be contagious." After he left, I locked every door and window. That night, the lights flickered again, but longer this time. When I checked the circuit box, the readings on my phone's EM app spiked off the chart. The hum filled the air, and then I heard her voice. Daniel. Soft, close, unmistakable. I turned. Sarah stood in the doorway, the same place she'd been that first night I'd followed her to Noah's room. But she wasn't flesh. She was light, shifting, transparent, threads of red weaving through white. Her face looked young, calm. I stumbled backward, hitting the counter. You're not real, she smiled sadly. Neither was the thing that took me. What do you want? To finish what I started, she looked toward the hallway. He's almost ready, Noah, she nodded. The connection hasn't closed. The sequence is dormant in him, but incomplete. If it wakes without guidance, it will seek energy, anything living nearby. Then help me stop it. Her glow dimmed slightly. I can't stay long. The more I anchor here, the faster it spreads. She reached out a hand, light stretching like mist. You need to destroy the mirror. The mirror? It's a conduit. It remembers us. It's how it travels. Before I could respond, the hum grew louder, shaking the floor. Sarah looked toward the sound, fear flickering across her luminous face. It knows I'm here, she whispered. Daniel, hurry! She vanished like a flame snuffed out. The hallway mirror trembled. Cracks spidered across the surface, glowing red from within. I grabbed a chair and swung it as hard as I could. The glass shattered, but instead of falling, the shards hung in the air, suspended, vibrating. The red light inside them pulsed faster, brighter. From Noah's room came a scream. I dropped the chair and ran. He was standing on his bed, eyes wide, hands over his ears. The air around him shimmered, bending like heat. It's loud, he shouted. Make it stop. I grabbed him, pulled him close. The air felt electric, tingling against my skin. The shards from the mirror floated down the hall, spinning toward us like metal drawn to a magnet. They circled Noah, forming a halo of broken reflections. In every shard I saw a different image. Sarah smiling, Sarah crying, Sarah holding Noah as a baby. And behind all of them, faint and massive, the silhouette of the man in the doorway. Then the shards fell, scattering like rain. The light blinked out. Noah slumped in my arms, unconscious. I laid him on the floor, heart pounding, whispering his name. After a long moment, his eyes fluttered open. Dad? I'm here, buddy. He blinked, dazed. It's gone. What is? The light. It said thank you again. I looked around. The house was dark, silent. The mirror was nothing but dust. For the first time in months, there was no hum, but when I picked him up, I saw the circular mark on his wrist glowing faintly, pale red, fading, but still there. I didn't tell him. I held him until he fell asleep again, then sat awake until morning, watching the horizon turn gray. At sunrise, my phone buzzed. One new message. No number. Sequence complete. Host stabilized. And below that, a single attachment. A photo of Sarah and Noah standing by the oak tree, both of them smiling in perfect light. The metadata said it was taken at 12:37 a.m. that morning. The morning after the message, the air felt wrong. It wasn't heavy or cold, it was too still, like the world was holding its breath. Noah was still asleep, curled under the blanket, his small hand pressed against the faint red mark on his wrist. I sat by his bed for an hour, just watching him breathe, half expecting the glow to come back. When he finally woke, he seemed normal. Too normal, cheerful. He stretched, yawned, and asked if we could go to the lake. I smiled, though my throat felt tight. Sure, buddy, later. He nodded, then frowned. Dad? Mom says you didn't sleep again. The spoon froze in my hand. What? He pointed toward the window. She was there. She said you're worried too much. She said the lights finished talking. I didn't know what to say. The sunlight pouring into the room looked real, solid, reassuring. But I felt the old hum again, faint and low, vibrating just under the edge of hearing. I forced a smile. Eat your cereal, champ, he did. Like nothing was wrong, but I knew something was still inside him. Not evil, not human either. Something watching. Later that day, I went to the backyard. The soil around Sarah's grave was disturbed. Just slightly, like someone had been there during the night. Noah's plastic dinosaurs were lined up neatly along the edge, but there was something new. A single mirror shard, half buried, reflecting the gray sky. When I touched it, the hum returned, stronger now. For a second, my own reflection blinked back at me out of sync. I dropped the shard. That evening, I made the mistake of opening the message again. The attachment had changed. The photo of Sarah and Noah now showed movement, like a looped video. Sarah's hand lifted, waving. Then the text underneath appeared again, new lines this time. He's safe now. But you're not finished, Daniel. I slammed the laptop shut, heart hammering. At midnight, I woke to the sound of Noah talking. His voice was calm, sleepy. I crept down the hall, my skin prickling. His door was open. He was sitting up in bed, eyes half closed, whispering to the air. "What are you saying, buddy?" I asked softly. He smiled without opening his eyes. "Mom says you have to go to the hospital." My stomach dropped. "Why?" "She says there's one more piece. The other mirror." I froze. "What mirror?" "The one under the city," he said, and then lay back down. "It hums when people die." His breathing slowed. He was asleep again. I stood there for a long time, watching the shadows crawl along his wall. The next morning, I packed a bag and told him we were going on a small trip. He didn't ask questions. He just held my hand and said, "She's waiting." The hospital looked the same as it had the day Sarah worked her last shift. Clean, bright, empty. I told the receptionist I was there to collect some of her belongings. She checked the system, frowned, and said, "Her file's restricted, sir." "Who authorized your visit?" I smiled tightly. "Dr. Rains." The color drained from her face. "Dr. Rains is deceased." "I know," I said quietly. "So let me through." Something in my voice must have worked because she nodded, flustered, and called security to escort me. They sent Voss. He didn't look surprised to see me. "Couldn't stay away, huh?" he said, tapping his badge against the elevator panel. "You're lucky I'm the one who caught this request. Just want closure," I said. He smirked. "Sure." The elevator doors closed, and as we descended, I noticed the numbers going down past the basement level. "Where are we?" "Sublab 3, he said. "The one they sealed after the incident. That's where she used to work." When the doors opened, the air hit me like a breath from a freezer. Sterile, chemical, humming. The lights flickered overhead, same rhythm as the pulse that had haunted my house. The corridor walls were lined with old observation windows, each dark, each covered in dust. But at the end of the hall, one door glowed faintly red behind its frosted glass. Restricted. Genome Sequence B. Voss walked ahead, swiping his card. "You've got 5 minutes." "I'll wait here." I stepped inside. The lab smelled like old metal and ozone. The hum was louder now, surrounding me, vibrating through the floor. In the center of the room stood a cylindrical tank, empty, cracked, but faintly glowing at the seams. Beside it was a shattered mirror, or not just a mirror. A polished slab of something black and glassy, webbed with fractures. Light leaked from it, thin as spider silk. I approached, heart pounding. The surface rippled. For a second I saw my reflection. Then Sarah's face replaced mine. Her mouth moved, but the sound came from inside my head. "Daniel," she said. "You found it. What is this?" "The first portal," she said. "This is where it entered. Before the accident, before the shutdown. Evelyn tried to destroy it, but she couldn't. The sequence remembers." Her eyes softened. "It needs to go back. You can end it. How?" "Break the reflection. It's already broken." I shouted. "Not enough." Her voice trembled. "You must give it something living, something it remembers." I stared at her. "You mean Noah?" She shook her head slowly. "It doesn't need him anymore. It needs you." The lights flickered, humming deeper. The red glow brightened around the cracks. "Daniel," she whispered, "I can't hold it any longer. If it stays here, it will feed on memory until nothing is left. Please, help me finish it." The air thickened. The glass rippled like water. I saw flashes, Sarah's face, Noah's laughter, the house, the man in the doorway, all layered inside the reflection, like memories trying to escape. And beneath it all, the hum turned into words. "Daniel. Daniel, come home." I reached out. My fingers brushed the surface. It was warm, alive. The red light surged, blinding. Behind me, the door burst open. "Don't!" Voss shouted. I turned. He had a gun drawn. "Step away from it." "It's her," I said. "She's still in there." He shook his head. "That's not your wife." "That's what's left of it." The mirror pulsed, stronger. Sarah's voice screamed inside my skull. "Now!" Voss fired. The bullet hit the glass, and the entire room exploded in red light. I fell. For a moment there was no sound, no gravity, just a sea of color, like being inside a heartbeat. Then the world snapped back. I opened my eyes to find myself lying on the floor. Smoke filled the room. The mirror was gone, vaporized. Voss was slumped against the wall, unconscious but breathing. In the air above the cracked tank, something shimmered, a faint human shape made of light. Sarah's face, smiling faintly. "It's done," she whispered. I tried to speak, but my throat locked. "Take care of him," she said, fading. "We'll be waiting." Then the light disappeared. The hum was gone. When I stumbled out of the lab carrying Voss's badge, the elevator lights were dead. I climbed the stairs to ground level, the air growing warmer, realer. Outside, dawn was breaking. I called Noah's name. He was standing by the parking lot, staring at the sky. He smiled when he saw me. "You did it." I hugged him, holding on longer than he expected. "How do you know?" He looked up. "Mom said goodbye." Behind him the clouds shifted, and for just a second, sunlight poured through in red and gold bands, forming the shape of two figures holding hands, and then it was gone. We drove home in silence. Noah hummed softly, the same tune Sarah used to hum while washing dishes. When we reached the house, I noticed something new. The hallway where the mirror had been was blank now, freshly smooth, like it had never existed. Noah looked up at me. "Can I keep the light, Dad?" "What do you mean?" He smiled. "Just a small one, to remember her." He held out his hand. The mark on his wrist glowed faintly, not red anymore, but golden. Warm, gentle. I didn't stop him. That night, as he slept, I walked through the quiet house. No hum, no static, just peace. But in the reflection of the kitchen window, for a fleeting instant, I thought I saw her, Sarah, standing by the oak tree, holding Noah's hand, both of them glowing softly in the moonlight. Then the wind shifted, and the reflection vanished. The silence felt different now, not empty, full. And for the first time since all of it began, I whispered into the dark, "Good night, Sarah." A soft warmth brushed my cheek in reply, like a breath, like a kiss, then faded into the stillness of a world finally at rest. Noah grew quieter after that night. Not withdrawn, just older, somehow, as if the light that had left him had taken part of his childhood with it. He didn't ask about the red man anymore. He didn't wake up screaming. He didn't dream at all, he said. But sometimes, I'd find him sitting by the window at dawn, looking at the sky with a small smile, humming under his breath the same tune Sarah used to hum when she cooked. The house stayed still for weeks. No flicker, no hum, no strange shadows and mirrors. It should have been peace. But peace can be unsettling when you've lived too long with ghosts. I'd catch myself waiting for something, some whisper, some pulse, to remind me the nightmare hadn't just ended, because I wanted it to. It was the letter that broke the stillness. It came on a gray Tuesday, in a plain envelope with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a hospital ID card. The note said, "For your records. ER." The card belonged to Dr. Evelyn Rains. It was real. The lamination, the worn corners, the photo, everything was authentic. But she was supposed to be dead. That night, I sat in the garage staring at the ID card under the weak bulb. The name, the face, the quiet smile. It was all too solid to dismiss. If she was alive, that meant the story wasn't finished. At 12:37 a.m., the power cut out, not flickered. Cut. The hum returned, not loud but subtle, like something breathing just beyond the walls. I grabbed a flashlight, moved through the hallway. The beam jittered across the blank space where the mirror had once been. Nothing. Then I saw Noah's door slightly open, light leaking through the crack. Golden, not red. He was awake, sitting up, staring at something invisible. His hand was glowing faintly, the mark on his wrist burning gold. "Noah," I whispered, stepping closer. "Are you okay?" He turned to me, and for an instant his eyes looked older, ancient almost, too calm for a child. "She's back," he said softly. "Who?" He pointed toward the foot of his bed. The doctor. I turned the flashlight. Nothing. But the air shimmered, faintly bending, and then a voice filled the room, steady, female, familiar. Mr. Collins. The beam flickered. There she was. Dr. Evelyn Rains, or what was left of her. She wasn't a ghost like Sarah. She was clearer, solid around the edges, like someone standing halfway between light and air. She smiled faintly. You made the transfer possible. Sarah succeeded. My throat tightened. You're alive. In a manner of speaking, she said. When the containment failed, the sequence merged with my nervous system. I've been different since then. Less body, more signal. Noah tilted his head. You're the lady from the light. Rains looked at him gently. And you're the boy who carried it without breaking. I stepped in front of him. What do you want? Her expression softened. To warn you, the sequence isn't gone. Sarah sent it home, yes, but not all of it left. A residual pattern remains, a fragment inside him. I felt the room grow colder. You mean it's still in Noah? Harmless now, she said quickly. Dormant. Think of it like a memory stored in his blood. But memory has gravity. It attracts itself. If another fragment exists anywhere, it will try to return. Return where? To him. I took a step back, shaking my head. You said the lab was destroyed. The mirror's gone. There's nothing left. Her eyes dimmed. There's always something left. Noah tugged at my sleeve. Dad, it's okay. Mom said the light belongs here now. Rains frowned. He can hear it? She talks to me sometimes, Noah said. She says the other lights are lost. Rains knelt, though her knees didn't quite touch the floor. Then it's begun already. What's begun? I demanded. The resonance, the fragments calling each other. They'll seek the nearest carrier, your son. I felt my stomach twist. How do I stop it? You can't stop a frequency, she said quietly. You can only tune it. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small device, no bigger than a pager, humming faintly with gold light. This is a stabilizer. It will keep the resonance from escalating. When the time comes, he'll need it. Until then, keep him grounded, keep him human. The light around her flickered, dimming. My time's ending. The signal fades. Remember this, Daniel. Sarah trusted you for a reason. Then she was gone. Noah looked up at me, sleepy now, his glow fading. Has she gone back to the sky? Yeah, I said softly. Back to the sky. He nodded, curled into his blanket, and fell asleep within minutes. I stood there, the stabilizer warm in my palm, humming like a tiny heart. The next morning, I tested it. When I pressed the small button on the side, the gold pulse spread outward in slow rings, barely visible. For a moment, the house felt lighter, quiet in a way that didn't feel empty. I turned it off again. The hum didn't return. For days, life tried to be normal. Noah went to school. I went back to work, though everything mundane felt like a strange performance. Emails, meetings, smiling at people who would never believe the things I'd seen. But at night, when the house got quiet, the stabilizer would flicker on by itself. Once I woke to find Noah standing beside it, eyes open, not quite awake, whispering something I couldn't understand. I guided him back to bed, and when I came back, the device displayed a new pattern of light, a waveform that spelled out 2 words. Hello again. The next day, Voss showed up. No badge this time, no warning. He looked worse, gaunt, pale, eyes ringed with exhaustion. Something's happening again, he said as soon as I opened the door. What do you mean? The sequence. We found activity at the ruins of Sublab 3. Heat signatures. Power fluctuations. Someone's been down there since the explosion. It matches your wife's old access code. I froze. That's impossible. He ran a hand through his hair. I thought so too, until last night, when a maintenance cam caught this. He handed me a tablet. The grainy footage showed the dark corridor under the hospital. A figure, slender, long-haired, walked toward the sealed lab. The timestamp was from 2 nights ago. The camera caught her face for 1 frame. Sarah. She's gone, I whispered. I saw her die. Voss lowered his voice. Then whatever's walking down there isn't her. That night, I didn't sleep. The stabilizer glowed on the nightstand beside me, pulsing slow and steady. At exactly 12:37 a.m., the lights in the house flickered, once, then twice. A voice came from the hallway. Daniel. It was her voice. Sarah's. I stood, heart hammering. Sarah? The hallway was empty, but the golden pulse from the stabilizer began to shift, to red. Daniel. The voice repeated, softer now, closer, and then from Noah's room. Mom! I ran. The door slammed behind me as soon as I entered. The air turned crimson. Sarah stood there. No, something wearing her face, her shape, but her eyes glowed that old, impossible red. Noah, she said gently. Come here. He hesitated. You're not Mom. I am what's left of her, it said, smiling too wide. And I've come home. I stepped between them, raising the stabilizer. Get away from him. The light in her eyes flickered. You think that can stop me? That little machine she stole from Evelyn? She took a step closer. That device doesn't hold the sequence. It calls it. You've been ringing the doorbell, Daniel. And now I'm here. The hum rose again, shaking the walls. Noah screamed, covering his ears. I pressed the button on the stabilizer, desperate. The gold light exploded outward. Sarah, or the thing wearing her, screamed, the sound warping, splitting the air like shattering glass. Her body twisted, fragments of red light tearing free, spiraling toward the ceiling like smoke in reverse. Then silence. The stabilizer cracked in my hand, went dark. Noah was shaking, crying. I pulled him into my arms, whispering nonsense, anything to ground him. When I looked up, the air was empty. But on the wall, where Sarah's reflection had been, a faint scorch mark remained, shaped like a handprint. The next morning, Noah didn't remember any of it. He just asked if we could visit the lake again. I said yes. We drove until the road ran out and the trees swallowed the sky. The lake was calm, mirror smooth. Noah threw stones, each one rippling the water in widening circles. Dad? He said after a while. Yeah? He pointed to the surface. There's light under there. I looked. Beneath the ripples, a soft gold shimmer pulsed once, twice, then vanished. Noah smiled. She's happy now. Maybe he was right. Or maybe the light never really left. It just found somewhere else to sleep. That night, back home, I dreamed of the lake glowing red under the moon. And in the reflection, deep beneath the surface, a figure watched me with Sarah's eyes and smiled. The dream didn't end when I woke. The smell of lake water lingered in the room, faint, metallic, impossible. My pillow was damp, my skin cold, as though I'd been standing waist-deep in that black mirror of water only moments ago. The digital clock on my nightstand blinked nonsense symbols, its red numbers distorted into unreadable shapes. Noah was already awake. He stood at the window staring at the horizon where the first line of dawn was breaking through fog. She said you'd come back. He whispered. Who? He didn't turn. Mom. She said the water remembers. The words settled like stones in my stomach. It was just a dream, Noah. He looked at me finally, his expression unreadable. She said it's not over. That day, I couldn't focus on anything. Every reflective surface made me flinch. The kettle, the TV screen, even the glass on the framed photo of the three of us smiling before all of this began. Each reflection seemed a half-second out of sync. By afternoon, I couldn't take it anymore. I called Voss. He answered on the third ring, voice hoarse. I was going to call you. Why? There's been a breach, he said. At the lake. The silence stretched. What kind of breach? I asked. Environmental anomaly. Fishermen reported the water glowing red last night. They thought it was some kind of chemical spill. When our team arrived, they found the same electromagnetic readings we logged under the hospital. My mouth went dry. Sequence? Or something left of it. He hesitated. We're closing the area off, but you should keep your son away from there. I hung up without replying. That evening, I found Noah sitting by the oak tree, his hands cupped around something small and bright. It took me a second to realize what I was seeing, a tiny sphere of golden light floating just above his palms. It pulsed gently like a heartbeat. Noah, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. What is that? He looked up, smiling faintly. It followed me home. The light quivered as he spoke, almost shy. Put it down, buddy. He frowned. It's not bad. It says it's lonely. The pulse quickened, and for the briefest moment I heard a sound. Not quite a voice, not quite static, but familiar. Sarah's hum. Noah, I whispered. Listen to me. You have to let it go. Tears welled in his eyes. It misses her. The sphere flickered as if reacting to his emotion, and then it darted forward. Into him. The light vanished. Noah. I grabbed his shoulders. Are you okay? He blinked, disoriented, then nodded. I'm fine. But that night, when he slept, the hum returned. Not through the walls, but through him. It came from his chest, soft but steady. I sat beside his bed until dawn, watching, listening, remembering Sarah's last words. Keep him grounded. Keep him human. The next morning, the golden mark on his wrist was brighter. It didn't fade with sunlight anymore. It glowed even in daylight, casting a faint shimmer on his skin. He ate breakfast like normal, laughing at cartoons, but when he looked up at me, his pupils flashed gold. Dad, he said, I think she's coming back. Who's coming back? The other one. The red one? My spoon clattered against the table. Where did you hear that? He tilted his head, listening to something I couldn't hear. She's talking. She says she's close. I felt the house tremble, just once, like a heartbeat too strong. The coffee in my cup rippled. I grabbed the stabilizer from the drawer, but it was dead. The cracks Sarah had left across its casing had spread, the gold light inside gone cold. That night, the dream started again. I was standing at the lake, but it wasn't water anymore. It was glass. Beneath the surface, thousands of red lights pulsed like sleeping eyes. I looked down and saw my reflection, Sarah beside me, Noah between us, both smiling. And then the reflection began to move on its own, smiling wider and wider until their faces tore into light. I woke gasping, the smell of ozone filling the room. My hands were wet. The clock read 12:37 a.m. From Noah's room came the sound of humming. I rushed in. He was levitating, just a few inches off the bed, body perfectly still, golden veins of light tracing across his skin. His eyes were open, glowing gold and red at once. Noah. He didn't answer. His lips moved, but the voice that came out wasn't his. It was layered, deep, echoing. Daniel, it said. You opened the door. We are almost home. I grabbed him, shaking him. Let him go. The voice laughed, not cruelly, just amused. He is home. Then the light flared, blinding, and everything went black. When I woke, the room was cold. The windows had shattered inward. Noah lay on the bed, breathing softly, back to normal. But on the wall above him, written in condensation, were 3 words. The lake calls. By dawn I had a plan. I packed bags, clothes, food, whatever we might need, and loaded them into the car. I didn't know where we were going, only that it had to be far from water. When I opened Noah's door, he was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the same glowing mark. I know, he said quietly. We have to go. He didn't ask where. We drove for hours through empty highways and small towns. The farther we went, the quieter the world felt, like static fading from a radio signal. Noah dozed in the passenger seat, peaceful for the first time in days. Then the radio turned on by itself. Sarah's voice filled the car, soft, distant, full of static. Daniel, I gripped the wheel tighter. Sarah, you can't run from it, she said. You can only finish it. Finish what? The connection. The light was never meant to split. I glanced at Noah, still asleep, glowing faintly in the half-light. Tell me what to do, I said. Her voice softened. Bring him to the lake. My chest went cold. No, it's the only way, she said. He carries both halves now, gold and red. If they meet anywhere else, they'll burn the world around him. The lake is a gate. It can hold them. I wanted to argue, to scream, to demand she fix it some other way. But deep down, I knew she was right. The hum had been growing louder with every mile, a low resonance building behind my ribs. When I looked out the window, the horizon shimmered faintly red. By dusk, we were back at the lake. The water was calm, but light pulsed beneath it, slow, steady, breathing, gold and red intertwining like veins. Noah stood at the edge, barefoot, watching the ripples. She's waiting, he said. I swallowed hard. Do you see her? He nodded. Both of them. The air shimmered. Two shapes emerged from the water. Sarah, radiant and calm, and behind her, the red figure I'd seen months ago, vast and faceless, the shadow of every hum, every whisper, every nightmare. Sarah reached toward Noah. It's time. He hesitated, looking back at me. Will it hurt? I knelt beside him, cupping his face. Not if you're brave. He smiled, her smile. I'm brave. The light around him brightened, filling the air. The red glow from the lake rose to meet it. When they touched, the world seemed to pause. The trees, the wind, even the waves held still. Then came the hum, deep and vast, vibrating through bone and soul alike. The lights spiraled upward, gold and red twining together into pure white. I saw her, Sarah, one last time standing in that column of light, holding Noah's hand. Thank you, she said. Then they were gone. The lake fell silent. The glow faded. The water stilled. I stood there long after dark, the air heavy and quiet. When I finally looked down, something small lay in the sand. The stabilizer, its surface smooth and new again, humming softly with a steady white light. I picked it up. It was warm. For the first time in months, there was no hum, no fear, no reflection watching me. Just peace, fragile, but real. Still, when the wind passed over the lake, I could swear it carried a whisper, not words. Not a warning, just a familiar sound, Sarah's hum, blending with Noah's laughter, fading into the night. And I knew then that some doors never truly close. They just grow quiet. The lake never really let go of us. Months passed. Leaves turned red, then brown, then vanished under snow. Noah started school again, and I tried to convince myself that life was normal. But sometimes at night I'd catch him standing by the back window looking toward the horizon, humming softly. The tune was always the same, the one Sarah used to hum when she wanted the world to feel safe. I told myself it was just memory. That's what grief does. It loops like a melody that refuses to end. But one night in January, the hum changed. It grew deeper, metallic, layered. I woke to find Noah sitting cross-legged on the floor, the stabilizer glowing white in front of him. The air shimmered around it like heat. "What are you doing, buddy?" He looked up, eyes calm. "They're talking again." "Who's talking?" "The lights. They're calling home." I moved to grab the device, but the instant my fingers brushed it, a wave of sound hit me. Not just noise, but voices. Thousands of them, overlapping, whispering through static. Some were Sarah's, some were mine. Most were strangers. Then as quickly as it began, it stopped. The light dimmed. Noah blinked. They said thank you. After that, the stabilizer wouldn't turn on again. I thought that was the end of it. Until the letters began. Every few days, another envelope arrived. No stamp, no return address. Just my name in Sarah's handwriting. Inside each was a page filled with diagrams, equations, and one repeated phrase. The gate is incomplete. The last letter contained coordinates. Somewhere north, deep in the mountains. I burned the letters. I told myself I wouldn't go. But then Noah started getting sick. He'd wake with fevers that came and went within minutes, his skin glowing faintly under the sheets. He said he dreamed of a door under ice and of Sarah standing behind it, smiling. That was enough. We left before dawn. I drove north through endless white. The GPS died halfway, but Noah pointed the way like he could feel the pull. Almost there, he whispered whenever the road curved toward emptiness. By sunset, we reached a frozen valley. At its center stood a lake, not wide, not deep, but eerily still. And under the ice, something pulsed, red and gold together. Noah stepped forward before I could stop him. "She's here," he said softly. Both of them. The ice cracked in slow, perfect lines. Light spilled through. I grabbed him, but he turned, smiling with Sarah's calm. "It's okay, Dad. This is where it ends." The light rose, columns of fire and glass, and swallowed the world in brilliance. I heard Sarah's voice again, close enough to feel. "Daniel, it's not death, it's return." I tried to reach him, but the light pushed me back. The sound roared, like every hum, every breath since that first red night, and then silence. When I woke, I was alone on the shore. The ice was solid again. The air smelled clean. Noah was gone. I screamed until my voice broke, pounding the ice until my fists bled. No answer, no hum. Only the empty white of a world that had finally gone quiet. Weeks later, they found me wandering near the highway. I told them my son was gone. They said the lake was frozen solid, no sign of footprints, no sign of life. I didn't argue. They sent me home eventually. The house feels hollow now, a museum of echoes. But every night at 12:37 I hear it, the faintest hum beneath the floorboards. Sometimes when the air is perfectly still, a golden light flickers in the hallway where the mirror used to be. It's soft, warm, and for a moment I swear I hear two voices, hers and his, humming together. Then the light fades, the hum stops, and I'm left alone again, waiting for the silence to mean something. Because deep down, I know the sequence was never about infection or science or light. It was about connection, and connections don't die. They just change shape. When I close my eyes, I see the lake beneath the ice pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Not calling this time, just breathing.